Do we really want a new MMORPG to play? Or do we want World of Warcraft Classic fresh? Fresh at this point. Let's find out.
You don't want a new MMORPG. You think you do, but you don't. This
I think I do, but I don't. Okay.
might sound stupid if you're a fan of MMORPGs. I mean, if there's one thing gamers love,
It's women who pretend to be gamers. 10 out of 10. I would also take this.
it's games. And if there's another thing gamers love, it's bacon. Because bacon is epic sauce. One does not simply resist bacon. Either you love bacon, or you're wrong. But MMORPGs aren't like other games.
We're gonna completely memory hold those 10 seconds of our life, okay?
You don't spend 100 hours at most running through a campaign before dropping it and switching to the next game. Most MMO players will spend months, if not years, and
69,
even decades
nice.
in some cases, playing the same game day in and day out. Playing these games becomes this nasty, unkickable habit, like
Slop Maker, the character name, nice.
smoking a cigarette. Unfortunately, doing your weekly Blackwing Lair lockout doesn't make you look nearly as cool as smoking a cig does.
True.
When the new MMORPG tries to enter the market, it doesn't just have to capture the hearts and minds of players by being a good game, it has to convince those players to abandon what they're already super invested in. And the even deeper problem than that is the people they're trying to appeal to don't even know what they want. Hell, I don't know
True.
what I want. But I do know who I am, and thanks to a recently stolen election, I am still Idle, the president of MMORPGs. And with this hammer, I'm going to fix the genre. I am going to fix the genre that has been broken for far too long in the opinions of many. So I'm here to figure out what's wrong with you.
Hey, now the 10 video just for the soundtrack. I ain't gonna lie, I'm a simple dude. All he needs to do now is like show a little bit of that boob, and we're off to the races, boys.
I can't take this guy seriously.
God?
I mean, bald, patchy facial hair, green
Ah, yes, this is what we call an ad that we're not gonna watch.
now.
So the original creator of RuneScape, Andrew Gower, hi, nice to meet you, I'm Idle, just released a new game called Brighter Shores. People were really excited to see the first new MMORPG from such a legendary guy. And then they played the game. And then they weren't excited anymore. I played the game a lot, and I had thoughts that were mostly bad. And if you want to see those, you can check out my second channel, Idle Slop. Link in the
I have seen Brighter Shores. It does a lot of things in an interesting way, but to be honest, it's not even overly complicated, but it's a little bit overly intensive in how much actions does it take to do something and whatnot. It kind of does the RuneScape formula, but it tries to deviate so hard from it, it kind of fails in a lot of aspects. One of the biggest problems with Brighter Shores is the fact that you enter a new zone and your skills get reset to level 1 technically. And you can effectively keep nothing from your previous act or whatever they call it. And that pisses people off. You know, that's a great mechanic. And here's why, and you're going to agree with me. You just need to make it that mechanic is seamless. Not it just says, hey, you're level 1 again. Congratulations. All the effort you did there doesn't even matter anymore. Yeah, well, if all they did was hide the fact that you reset in a new act by, you know, making it a new skill check or something, it would be fine. But they don't do it, so people hate it. In reality, that's actually a good way to do things, and people typically like it, but it needs to be hidden really well.
description or link in your butt. But the recent disappointments of games like Brighter Shores and Throne and Liberty and even New World got me thinking, what do we actually want from an MMORPG? Well, let's take a look at some MMO history, shall we? Can't really read my script from here, so this is gonna be tough. According to some experts, MMORPGs have been around for almost as long as the pyramids, and perhaps even not as long as that. And in that time, there have been a lot of MMORPGs. Almost too many to count. 231. According to my dataset, since 1997 there have been over 220 MMOs released. For context, there have been just about as many Fast and Furious movies released in the past 2 decades if there were 220 Fast and Furious movies. You might hear that number of
But probably not far from that if we're being completely honest here.
MMORPGs and think, wow, they must be doing really well. That's a lot of new games. I thought there were only like 5 MMORPGs, but the truth is the data is a little bit darker than that. As you can see on this sick-ass pie chart I made, over 37% of MMOs have closed since 1997. That's a pretty high failure rate. To put it into perspective, imagine if 37%.
Not really, to be honest. Let me give you a real perspective on that. How many businesses close in 5 years? About 45% of new businesses fail within the first 5 years. So, that number of 37%? Not actually bad, beating out the averages here by a lot.
Over 37% of MMOs have closed since 1997. That's a pretty high failure rate. To put it into perspective, imagine if 37% of bridges you drove across exploded. You probably wouldn't drive over many bridges. This number could actually be even higher since a bunch of MMOs have closed down regional servers, now making them only available in Asia or Europe or North America and no longer available worldwide. But as cool as this pie chart is, it too doesn't tell the full story. Unfortunately, the Excel tutorial I watched only taught me how to make a pie chart. Oops, psych, egg on your face. I learned how to make bar charts too, or whatever this chart's called.
Damn.
It's pretty cool though, isn't it?
I don't know how to make... well, I do know how to make this. I have no idea what it's called, though. 10 out of 10.
On this chart, we can see the number of MMOs released versus the number of MMOs closed year over year. As you can see in the early and mid-2000s, things were going really great for MMORPGs. Yeah? There's a lot of blue here, and blue is good. And there's not a lot of red, and red is bad. But then as we head into the early 2010s, things take a turn for the worse. We start to get a lot more closures until 2014, which is the first year where closures actually outnumber the number of releases. And we even get a couple of years where closures are the only thing that happens, which is...
This makes perfect sense. So you need to understand that whenever you see a chart like this, there are a lot of things that that you need to consider. First of all, this is clearly when the MMORPG started. And let me explain this time for you, okay? They didn't need to have endgame, they didn't need to have proper leveling, they didn't have need to have proper life convenience things. They could have been literal shit. Most of them were, in fact. And yet, the slice, the pie, was humongous at that point. World of Warcraft, biggest game absolutely ever, no questions ever asked, honestly, right? And everyone wanted a slice of that pie, and most everyone got a slice of that pie. If your MMO released and it did not get, like, you know, a couple of 100,000 of players, you know, like 100,000 players, that was a miracle. Nowadays, though, let me explain how things go nowadays. For one, your MMORPG nowadays requires way more time to make, way more money to invest, and way more people playing to be actually successful. So, this just represents the fact that now the standards for the MMORPG are way higher, and the slice of the pie is way less. And they still require a lot of people. Here, they did not do it. But here you can slowly see the transition period where it's starting like that. Because old MMOs that have like 5k players no longer are able to sustain themselves and they need to shut down. And this is what this represents. Okay? And that's it.
Of MMOs closed year over year. Hope I don't jinx happens, which is pretty crazy to look at. But hey, look at 2024. Still going strong, no closures. Hope I don't jinx it. No one die. Full disclosure, I got all of this data from Wikipedia, so someone could have edited in a new MMO called Butt Blaster 69, and I wouldn't have noticed. I didn't check the data set, so...
Yeah, true.
Do your own research. But what you can trust is that the failure rate of MMORPGs is alarmingly high, especially when you consider that MMOs are really expensive to make. That's why the only really big MMOs we've gotten lately have been from Amazon Game Studios, which is in part owned by a guy who can go up to space in a penis rocket. That's a special kind of wealth. But even with these AAA or even quadruple A MMORPGs, they really struggle to capture the market.
I mean, New World was a disaster. New World is not a good example that you want to show here because New World, New World had 3 enemy types when it launched. Boars, skeletons, some kind of people, and that's it. Literally the same shit over and over and over and over again. And that was it. That was it. Maybe sometimes you had a enemy that used the bow instead of a fucking axe or something. But dealing with humans, oh, and there were skeletons that were all the literal fucking same. Okay, New World was a disaster. It was one of the buggiest launches ever. I think it was probably this far away from Steam saying, okay, we're force refunding everyone, but then they looked and said, wait, this is Amazon, let's probably just not do it for now. I mean, they're not gonna shut it down, they're gonna actually try and do things, which they did, and they failed still miserably.
In any meaningful way. So what gives? Did people just forget how to make good MMORPGs?
Yes.
Have we forsaken the ancient texts handed down to us on top of Mount Olympus by Jeff Kaplan when he made the original World of Warcraft design? Yeah, maybe. I'm not here to tell you that New World was actually a really good game. I've played New World.
It was
actually
shit.
not a very good game. And Brighter Shores, which I've already mentioned a little bit, is just such a hollow experience that it's not worth playing when you could spend your time invested in much more established and fleshed out MMORPGs. But a much deeper problem than the games just not being all that good is that I'm not convinced there's a huge market for new MMOs in general, as much as players and people like me might try and cope and say there is. The population of MMO players has...
That is. I mean, this video is like a month old or something. We know that is. And again, I have been saying this about Blizzard constantly. Blizzard once was arguably the greatest developer that we have ever had. World of Warcraft, Overwatch, Diablo, my god, Warcraft 3, those were things that almost every gamer nowadays knows about, or at least remembers. And wait, and people were saying, oh, the glory days are over. No one wants MMOs, no one wants hero shooters. Look at that, Marvel Rivals comes out, what's happening? It's currently literally choking the last light out of Overwatch 2, and it's not even close. It's gonna do it. And people love it, okay? Diablo 2. What, the Path of Exile came out, but it was kind of niche. Now, Path of Exile 2 hits, and Blizzard is literally scurrying through every rat hole that they can to figure out a way to actually save themselves, because Path of Exile 2 is just destroying them. World of Warcraft is no exception. People are waiting for the next big thing, but the reality is an MMORPG is way, way, way harder to make than, you know, a Diablo style of game, a World of Warcraft, well, Warcraft 3 style of game, and things like that. People are waiting. People are still waiting for a World of Warcraft killer. But it's really hard to make. And World of Warcraft is not even good at it nowadays. People are just playing it. Most people who play World of Warcraft currently have zero apathy for the game. The death of apathy is the true death of a game. They don't care at this point that they have spent, like, I don't know, 2 years of their lives literally playing this game. They don't care. They just don't care. Okay? They will leave for something better if something better comes. But the reality is World of Warcraft has such a head start in this sense because MMOs are just made different, okay? They have structure, they have things and whatnot. So it's really hard to trump World of Warcraft, but someone's gonna do it someday. And then World of Warcraft and Blizzard are gonna completely collapse. We saw it with Overwatch, we saw it with Diablo, franchises that people said no, there's no way to beat them, people don't like hero shooters, it's over. Look at that, it's not over at all.
shrunk dramatically thanks to games like League of Legends and Valorant and Fortnite that have taken the multiplayer scene and really dominated it for the past decade. MMOs used to be
League of Legends is also kind of in a bad position. It's really struggling to get any new players. Okay? And now it's doing some kind of new wild shit to get people in. It's kind of insane.
completely unique in terms of the multiplayer genre. I mean, when World of Warcraft came out in 2004, Xbox Live was only 2 years old and still required a monthly fee, so it wasn't nearly as full as it is today. So MMORPGs like World of Warcraft that did have a monthly fee would still become eternally popular. And there was also RuneScape, which was a big free-to-play game, and established games like Ultima and EverQuest that had already been going since the late 90s. Back in my day, you couldn't just launch a Minecraft server with some friends or join a massive SMP server where you could talk to underage children. We had to talk to children our own age. And these days, you can just launch Roblox and find cool servers, like the one where you kill other people with a suite of fart-based attacks. This is technology. MMOs were the truest multiplayer experiences you could get back then. And that
Everyone under 18, above 18, should be banned from Roblox. And I don't trust a single one of you, okay? I'm gonna be real.
that's just not the case anymore. So the market has spread out. And the people who are still here, like me and presumably you if you're watching this video, don't really know what we want. Yeah, it's easy to say, I want an MMO that is new and modern, but captures the feeling of the old days and the paradigms of classic MMORPGs. But that's like going to McDonald's and ordering a quarter pounder with cheese and a Happy Meal toy that will cure all of my anxiety. That just doesn't, oh, wait, hold on, Mario Kart toys are at Happy Meals now? And you can change out the wheels? This is so cool! Seriously though, here are just some of the MMORPGs that have released in the past decade. Shroud of the Avatar, a game made by Richard Garriott, the original creator of Ultima Online, which is considered by many to be the first true MMORPG. This game was supposed to be the spiritual
No one cares about your Ultima Online shit. Give up.
successor to Ultima Online, but it ended up being more like the spiritual successor to a small college lecture, because that's about how many people play the game. You have Wildstar, a sci-fi MMORPG.
Wildstar died, but I mean, I kind of look at this and, boys, listen, I ain't no foodie. You know this, God knows it, and Satan is my fucking witness. I signed no contracts with him. But damn. Okay, listen.
Made by some legendary RPG game designers like Tim Kaine, who made the original Fallout game, and
Dude, if you know anything about Tim Kaine, honestly, it's a miracle that guy even makes good games, because we have watched his videos. Tim Kaine is insane! He is not a games developer. He literally makes games to just do things that he has not done before, but not on, like, making a good game type of deal. He is literally, well, I want to use this technology for, text boxes. That's what he does. How does Tim Kaine even make anything? How did Tim Kaine just got locked the fuck out through life, I'm not gonna lie. Like, he doesn't care about making games. I don't think he cares about the stories, considering he's like, oh yeah, the Fallout TV show was great. It was cool with lore, and I'm cool with it. The guy literally just cares about, okay, let's use new technology for a game that I haven't used before because that's fun for me. That is insane, okay?
tons of other classics. I played this game when it came out in 2014. It was genuinely very good.
I played it for roughly, I think, 2 hours with my friend, and then we never played again.
A lot of people didn't play it, and it shut down 4 years later. That's a real shame, but the market just wasn't there. You've already heard me talk about New World.
Well, to be fair, Wildstar's story was more like this. Hey, here's super hardcore World of Warcraft. Only the hardcore can play it. You need to spend 275 hours a week on this bad boy, and then you're gonna get somewhere. That was Wildstar. Then people played it, and they were like, shit, I kinda don't want to spend more hours in a day than there are to play this game, and do raids and shit. And then they were the next time that some kind of big event was, hey, they're casual friendly now. Ha ha ha. Look at this. Maximum level. Press one button. Ha ha ha. Yeah, WildStar was a shit show.
It's not terrible, but it's also not
It is
good.
terrible.
And for that reason, despite it being one of the most hyped MMOs I can remember launching in recent memory,
It does look good, though. Like, New World is very special in the sense that you can watch the trailers, you can watch the things, and you will and you can't see the bad stuff. You cannot see the bad stuff for the most part, okay? You need to be pretty nitpicky to see the bad stuff. Which is insane, because nowadays you typically watch a trailer and you know everything about the game and can predict with a 99% accuracy rate is it gonna be bad or shit or slop or good, okay? But New World's trailers look good. The gameplay looked fun. Everything was cheeky peeky. But not when you started to play it.
it didn't have the staying power people hoped it would. I mean, seriously, it's not even New World anymore. It's New World Aeternum, a solo-based action RPG. They don't even want to be an MMORPG anymore. But in all fairness, I can think of at least 4 MMORPGs from the past decade that have succeeded. You have Final Fantasy XIV, a game that after it nuked itself in 2011 and relaunched in 2014 as A Realm Reborn, became one of, if not the biggest MMORPG out there. Listen, I'm not trying to diminish the success of this game, but I don't think it would have had the opportunity to get this popular if it was called something like Cat Girls Solve Crime Online. Okay, maybe it would have gotten like really popular if it was called that. A lot of people tried out Final Fantasy XIV because it was called Final Fantasy. The same goes for Elder Scrolls Online, a game that, again, I know has some really good parts to it, but with
ESO has no good parts to it. ESO is also unique in the MMO genre because, listen, if you go talk to a World of Warcraft player who has played for 10 years non-stop, he's gonna tell you that World of Warcraft is the best thing ever and it's the best state ever, and everyone knows it's copium lie bullshit. Elder Scrolls Online players are gonna be like, oh, our game's shit. Yeah, 100%. Most people don't like it. I barely like it, but I play because I have nothing better to do. ESO players actually have the balls to just admit, yeah, our game for the most part is not good, but there's nothing other Elder Scrolls like to play, so I'm playing this anyway. They just straight up admit that for the most part. It's insane. ESO players do have my respect when it comes to that, because no other game admits that shit. Typically, most absolutely almost all games, players don't admit that their game is bad. ESO, yeah, it's a money grab cash cow and I'm playing it. It is what it is. There's nothing better for me to do at the moment, so I'm sticking with it.
If people have given it a try and really stayed with it if it wasn't part of one of the most iconic RPG series of all time, I think probably not. And then you have 2 of the most iconic MMORPGs released this decade. Old School RuneScape, which is just a re-release of RuneScape as it was in 2007. It's hard to call that a new MMO, but it kind of is. I mean, it's not RuneScape anymore, it's its own beast. And then in 2019, you get World of Warcraft Classic, a game that is still massively popular, despite receiving absolutely no changes in those 5 years since its release. So of the successful MMOs we have in the past decade, 2 of them are from established franchises, and 2 of them are re-releases of games from a lot of people's childhood.
RuneScape is funny because it's one of the most successful things still ever. In popularity, RuneScape is I think 3 or 4 overall. The first one is still World of Warcraft. Final Fantasy, I think, also overtrumps it. But RuneScape is the 3rd or 4th most popular game. And 70% of those players are bots. The statistics for bot players on RuneScape is beyond wild. There are hundreds of bot farms that have literally hundreds of accounts.
That doesn't really show how people want something new, does it? All the MMOs that were, in every sense of the word, new, struggled to stick around. And the way I see it, there's 3 big reasons for that. Reason number 1, I need to check the script.
Boobs.
MMORPGs are high investment games. That is no surprise to anyone who plays them. You'll always hear players say, oh, the game gets good at 100 hours, the game gets good at 200 hours. Oh, well, the first 500 hours are actually just a tutorial. And
That's only Starfield, and that's not an MMO. And yeah, that's Final Fantasy 14 in a nutshell. Oh, just play until the end game and last boss, then it becomes good. And there, it does, as far as I know. Though I did not get to the good part. I quit on level like, I don't know, 20-ish because I couldn't unlock the rogue class. It is what it is.
after that, you really start to understand what the game's all about. By the way, bad game design. That's just bad. But the point that gets across is that MMOs are games that you will spend a minimum of hundreds of hours in if you're going to play them to any significant degree. And this makes it doubly hard for the genre to get players into new games. First of all, you need to convince players to drop the games they've played for hundreds, if not thousands of hours, and then you need to convince them to play your game for hundreds, if not thousands of hours. Sure, you could make an MMO that maybe doesn't need to be played for hundreds, if not thousands of hours, but then you're probably just making like an RPG. You should probably just make an RPG, to be honest. And looking back at that failure rate of MMORPGs, it's really tough to convince yourself to switch to a new game and invest hundreds of hours there when in a year from now, it could all be gone. The game could literally just be shut down. You can feel pretty confident if you're playing.
You know what? I'm kind of okay with this. I'm kind of okay with that. As long as I like it and it gets shut down at some point, I'm fine with it. I don't care about losing things. I think we have. I think it no longer applies to most players. You know, I even forgot the psychological term for this. But it's when you have an already existing investment in something and you don't want to leave it. Sunk time fallacy. There we go. The sunk time fallacy. I don't think it no longer applies. I think people are like, oh, a new MMO dropping. Well, I'm having a lot of fun in World of Warcraft, but I'm gonna see this one, how it works. And then they play it for a month or two, then they get bored, and maybe they switch games again. They don't care if that gets deleted. They had fun. They had fun, and that's all that matters. I don't think people care about it that much, because every game gives you 100 billion achievements. Every game gives you 100 billion skins for playing it. Every game has a battle pass. Every game has everything. And when every game gives you 1,000,000 skins, nothing feels special. And so moving on to the next game that's gonna literally do this exact same thing to you now as the previous game, it's not a problem for people because it doesn't feel special. So they can just move.
Playing games like Elder Scrolls Online, RuneScape, World of Warcraft, that your progress won't be gone anytime soon. That makes it even harder to pull people away from their established games. Reason number 2, I'm trying to look like a 2. Beyond just material investment of money and time into existing MMOs, players have an emotional investment into these games. Imagine going up to an iPhone user and being like, hey, try out this cool new Android phone. It has features that you might find objectively better than your iPhone. They'll look at you first like you're crazy, and then they will spontaneously combust into hellfire. That's just how it works. I don't make the rules. The reason for
To be fair, iPhone, I don't use an iPhone. But they are objectively better than other phones. You know, there's a reason. The reality is every phone company is trying to copy what Apple has and is doing. Apple just tries to make things better. Everyone else just copies them. They are, without a doubt, objectively the better user experience. And if Android has something that's even slightly better than Apple, you can bet that they are in a year gonna take that, improve upon it, and you're gonna forget about the original.
this is just because people are creatures of habit. They like what they like. They like the frictionless experience when they want to relax and log onto a game. They don't want to relearn new mechanics or anything like that. So even if a new MMO comes out and does have a ton of objectively better features than some of the popular games out there, people will just stick with what they know unless they're given a really, really compelling reason to switch over. And
that is partially true. By the way, I do think this is a big one. For example, I did play, I forgot what it's called, give me a second. Throne and Liberty. And it did so much bad, by the way. It failed on so many fronts, it's insane. Play with doggets plus your shadow step ability. Guess what? Camera doesn't it was so bad. And yet Throne and Liberty found a lot of success. It's pay to win and a lot of shit like that. And it's still relatively successful, by the way, for what it is. But there's so much confusing stuff in Throne of Liberty. Like, there's this thing that you're supposed to do, the events, like, nothing's explained. Everything is poorly explained. With World of Warcraft, you have the thing that if you're gonna play it, it's probably gonna be at least a good beginner experience because most of the shit is gonna be explained to you, and triple, double, quadruple that for classic World of Warcraft, where nothing is hard at all and everything you understand as a given. Okay? There is an advantage to be had there versus something that is, 50 steps hard on every step for no reason. People kind of don't like that because at this point, most of us are casual players. As a 30-year-old, I grew up amongst a lot of people who wanted to be competitive, including myself. But at this point, I could not give a shit about being competitive. That's just the reality of things. And the new generations, they also don't give a shit about being competitive. Okay? They give a shit about being competitive between friends, but only pretty much between friends. Most people don't care that they are bronze in League of Legends. Most people don't care that they suck at Fortnite. So, a game that is really, really hard to get into is going to suffer a lot.
Unless they're given a really, really compelling reason to switch over. And reason number 3, check that out. Just for you. MMORPGs, despite the rise of solo gameplay, are inherently social games, even to this day. No matter how you play these games, there's a good chance you have at least a few friends you talk to while playing it. Maybe it's a guild you're super active in and you do raids and PvP every single week, or it's just a casual leveling guild where you just talk while you do some quests on your own. And even if it's not in the game itself, maybe you're just on a Discord call with a few friends who are playing that same MMO as you, and it's a cool way for you guys to all bond and relax. All of these bonds are built through these MMORPGs, and you can't recreate that through mechanics or graphics or anything on the technical side. A lot of people say that MMORPGs were the original social networks, and I think that's true when you look at how competition works in social networks. Twitter is an objectively bad site. No one likes it. Literally no one likes this site. But the competitive
Twitter is literally the place where the majority of the world gets its news. Like, Zuck and Cuck recently came out and said that 3 billion people use Facebook, which is obviously a fucking lie, by the way. There is no way, okay? If 3 billion people use Facebook, then 2.5 billion of those people are bots at this point, in my opinion. Like, goddamn. And again, Twitter is just the most popular thing ever. People get their news on Twitter. Look at this, by the way. This is Threads. It came out in the worst possible moment for Twitter because it was at its weakest. And Threads died in 2 days. Blue Skies came out. And it died in 3 days. I mean, damn, at least they survived technically they survived 50% longer, but it was trash. It was trash. And bam, there we go. In any case, I think we all know how this is. I think we all know how this goes. Pretty good stuff, not gonna lie. That was Ideal, 10 out of 10. Have a nice day. Bye!